Welcome to Mr. R's art class. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thumbs, subs, and ring that bell. So in this video here, we're going to make a value scale using graphite. We're just going to use our pencil here to help blend and create different values on our value scale. So we're going to have all these darker values here on the right hand side, and as we move towards the left, they're going to be getting lighter and lighter and lighter. So this value should be lighter than this value should be lighter than this value, and basically all we're doing is we're adding less layers of graphite to some of these areas. So on this darker value, we have more layers of graphite layered up on top of each other, whereas in this value there's a lot less layers of graphite. So the way that we move to the left is by adding less graphite to some of these values here. Same thing on the top, but this one up here is going to be a gradient. This one's going to be blended in together, so you have to figure out how to come up with these same values that are down here, but be able to blend them smoothly and gradually to a white value. So you have to do the same thing up here, but without these rectangles. So you have to be able to smoothly blend from one really dark value to a lighter value and go all the way to white by the time you get all the way to the left. So you could use one of these references or resources on the back table to help you figure out which value should come next. But basically you're coming up with these different values that are a lot darker on the right hand side, and the values should get lighter as you move towards the left. So let's go ahead and get started. So first thing you need to do is make sure that your paper is sitting in front of you vertically. So your paper should be sitting in front of you long way from top to bottom or from bottom to top. Make sure that your 0 is lined up with the left side of your paper. 0 is going to be that first black line. You want to make sure that first black line is lined up with the left side of your paper. The edge of your ruler should not be lined up with the left side. It's the first black line that's going to be 0. Then you want to make a mark at every odd number at 1, 3, 5, and 7. Next step is you're just going to slide your ruler to the top of the paper. Make sure that your paper is still sitting in front of you vertically. You're not going to rotate your paper, you're not going to rotate your ruler, you're just going to slide your ruler to the top. Make sure that your 0, that first black line, is still lined up with the left side of your paper. Make sure that the edge of your ruler is not lined up with the side of your paper, that the first black line is lined up. And you're going to make the same marks up here at 1, 3, 5, and 7. So you're going to go ahead and connect those marks. So you're connecting the marks from one side of the paper to the other side of the paper. You could draw your lines lightly in case you make a mistake, or in case your pencil goes off the ruler a bit. Okay, then what you want to do is you want to rotate your paper so that you have this medium-sized bar on top, then you have these big bars in the middle, then this smaller bar so that medium-sized bar at the top, there's big bars in the middle, and then the smaller bar on the bottom. So you're going to place your ruler under this bottom line, not at the bottom of your paper, under this bottom line. Make sure that your 0 is lined up with the left side, and you're going to make a mark at a 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch is going to be that medium-sized mark, just above the W, or that medium-sized mark, or 2/4. So you have this mark here, and then the second quarter here would be a 1/2 inch. You're going to slide your 0, so 0 is going to be lined up with that mark now, and you're going to make a mark at every inch. Every inch. Okay, so it's going to look like this. You're going to have these marks down here at the bottom. Then you could go ahead and just slide your ruler up to the next line up. So on the second line at the bottom of your paper, make sure that your 0 is lined up with the left-hand side of your paper. Make a mark at a 1/2 inch, so that medium-sized mark. Slide your 0. Your 0 should be lined up with that 1/2 inch mark, and you're making a mark at every inch. So the big line next to each number. The big line next to the right of each number is an inch mark. And so these 1/2 inch marks, they're creating a frame. So when you're shading or creating a value scale, that if you're using paint or graphite, that it doesn't get on the table. So we're creating these little frames here, these little edges. So we're going to make a frame up here. We're going to go all the way to this very top line. You're going to make a mark at a 1/2 inch, making sure that your zeros lined up with the left hand side. So 1/2 inch, and then this part here, depending on the type of value scale that you're making, this top part here of your value scale is going to be a smooth transition, so or a gradient. So you should be going from lighter to darker. And then same thing down here, but you don't need the rectangles. So this top part here should not have the rectangles depending on what type of value scale that you're making. So 1/2 inch mark up there, and then another mark all the way down at 10.5, all the way down at 10.5, so that medium size mark. So you find 10, then you find that medium size mark between the 10 and the 11. So we're going to make these frames first. So again, we're making the frames so that in case you're using paint and you go off to the side a little bit, it stays on your paper and not on the table. So you're going to line up those marks. You're going to skip this top part, draw, skip, draw, then skip. Same thing with the far right. You're going to skip this top part, draw, skip, draw, and then skip. So it's going to look like that. Now you could go ahead and connect these marks down here. You're not drawing lines from the bottom of the paper all the way to the top. You're just drawing marks, depending on the type of value scale that you're making, just down here. And again, you might want to connect these lines lightly in case you make a mistake. You also might want to draw them lightly in case you're making a value scale with graphite, that you're able to blend those lines in a bit. So again, you can use the same technique for any value scale that you're making, whether you're making a value scale with graphite, with tempera, making different shades or tints. And this is how you set up a basic value scale. Up here in the top left hand corner, you put your name, your period number, and then the type of value scale. If you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. So what you're going to do, and the reason why you didn't make rectangles up here, is that you're going to make a value scale, and this value scale up here should be really dark, and the trick is to go from a really dark shade up here, and as you move towards the left, it should fade to white. So everything on the right hand side is going to be really dark, and as you move towards the left, it's going to get lighter and lighter, and as you get to the left hand side, it should be white. Same thing with these rectangles down here. You're going to shade these rectangles in. They're going to be really dark. And this rectangle here, this value scale, should be lighter than this rectangle. This rectangle should be lighter than that one. This rectangle should be lighter than that one. And again, so it's getting lighter and lighter as you move towards the left. As you move all the way to the left, this last rectangle should be white. It can actually be the color of the paper if you like. So again, you're shading all these rectangles in. The way that you shade this in is that you could add multiple layers of graphite. You don't have to press really hard. If you press really hard, sometimes the lines of the graphite, the lines of your pencil, they'll start to show through. And so you just kind of want to go in some small circles here. And if you do get these marks, you kind of just come back with another layer of graphite. So make sure that if you are using tempera, if you are using graphite, they try to stay within these rectangles. Alright, so that's why we have these frames here. And so we're also checking for craftsmanship. Craftsmanship is basically how neat you are, how clean you are, and how precise you are. And so this rectangle all the way to the right will be really dark, making sure that you're filling on all these little white spaces here. And then this next rectangle would have to be lighter than this one here. And if you have to go back and maybe darken this one up a bit, you could go ahead and do that. And so there's some spaces there. And so I like to start from the darkest, so starting from the right side and then moving towards the left. I feel like it's a little bit easier to actually make some of these spots a little bit darker than it is to try to make them lighter. And at this point, you can move on to the next one. So here we go. So you can actually tell that this one's darker, this one's a little bit lighter than that one. This rectangle will be a little bit lighter. And so you're doing the same thing up here, but again, you don't have these rectangles, and so you're trying to figure out how you could easily go from a darker shade to a lighter shade without the aid of these rectangles you have here at the bottom. So you're going from a smooth gradient, a smooth shade from really dark graphite to a really smooth graphite. And again, you could use this tutorial to make a value scale for tempera or a value scale for graphite. So when you get done, your value scale should look something like this. Your value scale with graphite should look something like this. Each rectangle, each value should be its own shade, its own value. So you should be able to tell one value from another. So each rectangle should be a different value. On the top here, you shouldn't see any of these rectangles here. Every value should be blended into each other. By the time you get to the left hand side, both the bottom values and this top gradient should be a lot lighter. It should be white by the time you get all the way to the left here. So when you get done blending, when you get done adding value, your value scale with graphite should look something like this. If you have any questions of how to blend or how to add value, go ahead and let me know. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And feel free to watch any of the other related videos.